Hi, my name is Ayden, and this is the creation of vertical flight. So the first helicopter flight, the first piloted helicopter flight occurred in 1907. Created by Paul Cornu, the Breguet Richette was the first helicopter to feature a pilot that lifted off the ground. Paul Cornu was a French bike maker and engineer, and that's where he kind of made his helicopter off of bikes. And although this was the first helicopter, he's not credited with the creation of the helicopter because his was extremely impractical and could only get off the ground for around 15 seconds with no control. So who is credited with the creation of the helicopter? Igor Sikorsky is credited with the creation of the helicopter. Igor Sikorsky was born in 1889 in Ukraine and died in 1972 in Colorado, where his company is based. He's considered the father of the modern helicopter because he created the VS-300 in 1939, which was the first fully functional helicopter that featured a pilot. It could hover over the ground for around 15 minutes, and but could only fly tethered flights. But this was a major step in the right direction because it featured a main rotor and a rear rotor, which means it could control itself. It wasn't just up to luck if it could stay in the air for long enough. So from the VS-300, Igor Sikorsky made the XR4. The XR4 was the first mass-produced helicopter and served as a combat and rescue helicopter for the United States Army Air Force and the Coast Guard. These were some photos I found significant about this advancement. So the photo in the top left is a picture of Igor Sikorsky on the left and Orville Wright on the right in front of the final version of the XR4. The photo in the top right is a picture of Igor Sikorsky showing off the tether and pulley system that this helicopter featured. The picture in the bottom left is a picture from the Royal Air Force of their version of the XR4, which they called the Hoverfly. The picture in the bottom middle is the original version of the XR4, which you can find in the Smithsonian. And the picture on the bottom right is an XR4 that was designed to fly on and off of naval ships and had those floaty things on the bottom so it could take off and land in water. So the XR4 helicopter. In 1940, the U.S. Army Air Forces contracted Igor Sikorsky to develop the XR helicopter for $50,000. The XR4 was produced from 1942 to 1944, and because of slow development of other helicopter, it was the first helicopter to be used for combat mission during wartime. So the XR4 had 2 seats. It only required 1 pilot and had a tail rotor and a main rotor. Both rotors were powered by a single radial engine from Warner Scarab. This motor was called the R501 and had 175 horsepower. The main rotor blades measured 36 feet in length and spun at 250 RPM, allowing it to carry up to 2,540 pounds, which was well more than what it actually needed. So the U.S. Army Air Force and Coast Guard. So during the time of the XR4's production, World War II was extremely active, and it was used as the first combat and rescue helicopter. Most missions that the helicopter took part in were delivering blood plasma, and because the helicopter was able to land in so many environments, it was able to get the needed blood plasma to many places that other aircraft weren't able to, so it saved many lives. Advancements that made it possible. One of the first major advancements that made it possible were Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine, which was a major inspiration for people who wanted to create helicopters or anything with vertical lift. And Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine proved all principles of the helicopter, from taking off from standing point and being able to hover in the air. The second most important advancement that made it possible was the radial engine, which was invented in 1901 and had an excellent power to weight ratio when compared to other engines at the time. One other popular engine at the time was the inline, and the radial engine was much more reliable than inline engines because it took up much less space and didn't weigh as much. The radial engine was the primary engine of the helicopter for more than 25 years, which proves its significance. Advancements that came after. So during Igor Sikorsky's lifetime, in his company Sikorsky Aircraft, he created 42 helicopters after the XR4 And after his death, engineers in his company continue to create helicopters based off of his achievements. And the most recent helicopter from Sikorsky Aircraft is the S-97 Blazer from 2015. And the next up and coming aircraft from Sikorsky Aircraft, which is a joint with Boeing, is the SB-1 Defiant, which is planned to come out in 2023.